Hi everyone and welcome back to the Crafty Yellow Camper. And today I've got a card for you using Wildflower Designs, which is a stamp set out of the new annual catalogue. I'll just have a quick look and tell you what page it's on. It does come with some dies, I think. I'm just getting my head around this new catalogue. Very handily, the people at Stampin' Up have split the index. So before it just used to be stamp sets and what have you in alphabetical order. But now they've split it into embellishments, adhesive, dies, memory keeping, embossing folders, embossing and heat paste, ink and colouring, punches. So it's different to what we had before, but I am gradually getting my head around it. Okay, so Wildflower Designs can be found on page 41 in the annual catalogue. I'll just take my list out of the way. Okay, so the suite is called Wildly Flowering. Wildflower Designs is the stamp set, and it does come with a coordinating embossing folder, some dies, some gems, and some papers. I think I'm probably like most of you that watch my videos. I can't afford to buy everything at once. So to start with, I bought the stamp set, and I may get the dies. I'm not sure how I feel about the papers at the moment. I mean, they are lovely colours, and I love Moody Mauve. Yeah, they are really nice colours. I'm just trying to see if it tells us what all of the colours are. No. Okay, so you get 12 sheets. So these are the main floral sides here, and then these are the reverse sides. So they are nice. Just trying to work out what that blue is. Moody Mauve is this colour. That looks like wild wheat. No, it's not dark enough for copper clay. I'm not exactly sure. They used to tell us in the catalogue what colours were which, and I missed that. Anyway, this might be basic beige or... yeah, anyway, that's the stamp set we're using today. Sorry, I'll stop waffling now. So they've given us a few ideas of things to do with it using the dies, but I really like these images, so that's what we're gonna do today. Let me just tuck that out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to bring in a scrappy piece of paper, and those of you that can work it out can probably work it out what we're going to do. This is the card that we're going to make. So I've used a couple of new products in it. I've used a thick basic white base card, so that's half of an A4 sheet. So if you're watching from the States or anywhere else that has the letter size, half of your sheet will do it. Scored in half, and that gives us a standard C6 base. Okay, so that's basic white thick. Basic white on its own is not thick enough for a card base. Okay, then what I've done, I've used this new embossing folder. It's called Exposed Brick, and again, that's a new one in the annual catalogue. I don't know if you can see that if I hold that up there. It's quite a nice, I like embossing folders that are quite sort of neutral, and that one is. So what I've done, rather than you listen to me waffle while I run this through my cut and emboss machine, what I've done is I've gone ahead and cut it, and hopefully that gives you a little bit of a better look. So you can see the brick pattern, and then it's got this sort of almost damaged plaster effect. And what we're going to do with that is we're going to ink on the corners and around the edge. So I've got some wild wheat ink here, and I've got one of my blending brushes. This is a larger one. I keep forgetting to add the smaller ones to my list. Every time I do an order, I press submit order and think, oh, I didn't add those small ones. I will try and remember. I'm going to have to write a list. My memory is shocking. Okay, so I'm just going to get some colour on there, and we're going to start in the corners and just work our way around. Now, I'm not trying to teach you to suck eggs, but for those of you that don't know, if you start off the paper, you won't get a sort of swirly lined effect, which you get if you start straight onto the paper. Now, I'm not bothering to go too far into the middle because I really just want it around the edge, and we're going to be covering up most of that middle in any case. Okay, so that's that. So I'm going to take that out of the way. So the images that we're going to use today is this one and this one. This is definitely an agapanthus head. I've got one in my front garden, so I know that. Apparently agapanthus shouldn't be happy where it is in my garden, north facing, but I think this year, because we've had so much water, I think this year is the most bloom heads on it that we've ever had. I think I counted 22 when I counted last time. It's going to be glorious. It's about the only thing that is glorious at the moment in the UK. The weather is appalling. It's cold, it's cloudy, it's not raining, so I suppose I should be grateful for that. And this reminds me of the head of cow parsley. So those are the two that we're going to use today. It's got some really nice sentiments in it. So the card that I made to show you all has got thank you on it, because you can never have enough thank you cards. And I actually designed this to give to the ladies that run the toddler groups that I take my child-minded children to. They liked it. Hopefully you will too. So yeah, so those are the two flower images. And then we've got sending happy thoughts, you've been on my mind, and obviously the thank you I've used. So on this card, I'm going to use the sending happy thoughts, which is a nice long thin greeting, which should fit quite nicely down there on a small piece of cardstock. Okay, so let's put that to one side. So we've embossed our piece of matte card. So this is basic white, and this is 14.3 by 10. So I'm going to stick that onto our card base. Now, I always find that Tombow or liquid glue is the best thing to use when sticking embossed panels down, because the embossing does make it difficult for the things like tear and tape to grab. It doesn't really matter which way up it goes. I'm going to do it that way just because I can, no other reason. Okay, and let's try and get it straight. That would be great, wouldn't it? Okay, right, that'll do. So that's the other thing with the Tombow. It gives you a little bit of wiggle room. So you could see there, I was able to pull that sideways before I pressed it down properly. Okay, so that's our card base. And then what I've got another piece of basic white, and this is cut at 8 centimetres by 8 centimetres. Now you can see I had already stamped on that, and then stupid me put my finger on the ink pad accidentally, and I got a little smudge there. That's why paper comes in two sides. But some of you will notice that I've got a sort of a raised edge here where I put it through my trimmer. So what I'm going to do is just run my bone folder. So if you turn your cardstock over and there's a raised lip on it, if you just run your bone folder gently over the edge, that will flatten that out for you. It's really difficult to show you what it looked like before on the camera, but you'll all know what I mean. If you're regular card makers, you'll know exactly what I mean. That usually happens when the blade is getting a little bit blunt, but it's not blunt enough for me to change it. So I've smoothed that down so we can now use that side. Okay, and then I've got a piece of wild wheat, which was what the ink was that we used. And that's cut at 8.5 by 8.5 centimetres so that we can layer those up. But I'm not going to layer it up until I've done the stamping, because if I mess this side up, then I'd have to cut a new piece of the wild wheat as well. So it's always best to do your stamping before you put things together, in my opinion. Okay, so we're going to use the agapanthus head, and we're going to use the this little sort of cow parsley head. Now on this one I used the wild wheat ink, which I'm going to do again, but I used the same stamp 3 times, and I want to change it up a little bit this time. So this one is stamped at full strength, and then these are stamped off, so 2nd and 3rd generation inking. So what I want to do this time is go in there with that one like that, and then I'm going to bring, so this is very monochromatic card this time. Now what I don't want is the stalk on there, so I'm just going to bring in a baby wipe and just very gently clean off that bottom piece, And then we can stamp that. Now, if you put the stamp down in between inking it, rather than re-inking it and using too much ink and wasting your ink, if you just huff on it, so a breath on it, that will reactivate the ink. Okay, and that is going to go like that there. And then we're going to go back to this one. And again, this time I don't want the stalk. So I'm making sure that that part of my stamp is clean. And it sort of cuts straight across. So if I very carefully ink it, hopefully you can see what I'm doing, ink it towards the edge of my ink pad, then hopefully I shouldn't get any ink on that stalk, or very little ink anyway. And then I'm going to bring that up here, and I just want that going off the top there like that, so that when we mount it up, we've got our 3 flowers going up there. Right, I'm going to close this ink pad up because I'm terrible for leaning on things. Honestly, I am the messiest crafter in the world. There we go. Right, that's that. Okay, so these two can now be stuck together. Now, I did contemplate inking round the edge here, just very lightly. And I didn't do it in the end on the other card because I'd got this piece of card behind it. I'm still not sure whether to do it or not, just to bring it in line with the rest of the card which we've inked over. I can't make my mind up, to be honest. I wish this was a live thing and then you could all help me. So I think I'm going to leave it like that for this time. Okay, so let's put some glue on the back. I know what I'm like. I'll end up putting too much ink on it and then I won't like it, and then we'll have to start again and this video will get very long. Okay, so I'm just going to layer that up on my piece of wild wheat cardstock. Okay, that's that. And now I'm going to put this on some dimensionals. So I'm just going to put one in each corner. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Now, those of you that have watched any of my other videos will know I always keep one of these little miniature jam pots on my desk. Otherwise, I find these dimensional backs everywhere in my house, and I mean everywhere. Even rooms I haven't been into when I've been crafting. I think they get picked up on the soles of my slippers or on the soles of my feet, and then they get carried around the house. Okay, so we're going to pop that on there like that. And then I've just realised I haven't got a piece of card out to stamp the sentiment on, so just pardon me for a minute while I find a piece. Okay, so when I cut my matte layers down from our A4 sheets, there's always a long bit like that left. Now, I don't keep them all because otherwise I'd be drowning in them, but I do keep a few, and they are good for small thin sentiments like that one. So I'm just going to ink that up. Now, my top tip for you today with this kind of stamp, these really thin stamps are very, very easy to pick up ink on the edges of the rubber stamp. And then you end up with that sort of halo effect. So there's 2 things you can do to combat that. Firstly, make sure you put your rubber stamp on a block that isn't very much bigger than the stamp itself, and that will help stop you rocking it and getting ink on the edges. And then my other piece of advice is to just literally tap, 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 tap lightly, give it a look and check you've got ink on the whole stamp, which you can see I have there. And then I'm going to... Now, this is the bit where people make the mistake and they wiggle it. So just literally down and straight back up again, and then you should get a good sentiment. Now I'm just going to bring in my snips. I'm just going to take off the edge on there, and I'll put this piece back into my drawer, and that is going to go across there like that. So it's a little bit wide, so I'm just going to snip the end off there. Now, if you're not very good at getting a level end, then you can do it in your trimmer, obviously. Okay, I think that'll be all right. Okay, let's put my slips away. And then we're going to put some dimensionals on the back of that as well. Now, because this is a long greeting, it's a good idea to put one in the middle. It stops it sagging. Whereas on this small greeting, there's just one each end because there's not much gap in the middle. Nobody wants a sentiment that's saggy. No saggy sentiments here. Okay, that is the one thing with the jam jar. It does keep them all together, but remember to put the lid back on, because if you knock it, you're going to have a sort of no storm of dimensional backs. Okay, and then that's going to go down here, and you can see now why we didn't really need to ink the whole thing. Now I'm just going to have to pick that up to make sure that's level. Yep, there we go. And then just to finish it off, I've got some gems here. Now, unfortunately, these gems are no longer available. These are called the Iridescent Rhinestone Basic Jewels. That's a mouthful for you, isn't it? They aren't available anymore, but I had half a packet left, and I don't like to waste things. So I'm going to use them, but you could use the basic jewels, which would work just as well. Okay, and I'm just going to bring in my pokey tool. And I'm just going to use one of the smaller ones. And we're just going to pop that down there like that on the greeting. And I'm tempted to put some on the corners. Yeah, let's go for that. So we'll have some random ones dotted about. So we'll have one on that corner. So you should always have odd numbers. And we'll have one over there, and I think that'll do. There we go. Now what you could do if you wanted to is put a little bit of Wink of Stella on the edges of these agapanthus flowers, but I'm going to leave it like that at the moment. Okay, so nice, quick, simple, easy card. Not too much die cutting or faffing about. And yeah, so that's my card we've just made, and that's the card that I made before as an example. So you can see on this one I've been a lot lighter with the ink. I think I used just a tiny bit, whereas on this one I've done it a bit darker, and I actually prefer the darker one, but obviously that's just my taste. I think it makes the detail on the embossing folder stand out a bit more. But anyway, that's it for me for now. I'll be back with some more ideas to do with this Wildflower Designs in my next video. Thanks for watching. Hope you like the project and you'll give it a go yourself. Happy stamping. Bye for now.